You want to start it? You started this time. How about that?
Okay. Started last time too.
You did?
Yeah.
I can start it.
Yeah, you do that.
All right. Well, welcome everyone. This is our 10th off the wall wisdom and whimsy episode.
Yeah.
And so we actually, Dave kindly supplied party poppers to celebrate today. We were going to save them maybe for the end. We went back and forth about what to do. And so I think we've landed on we may randomly celebrate as we go along.
Well, yeah, basically we'll feel it out. We'll figure it out.
It'll either be 10 of them going off at the end, and you'll have to suffer through what we grabbed, or we'll rant. I have a feeling I'm going to want to do them throughout.
By the way, Brad, they were $10, or pardon me, they were 10 of them for $1. So Brad, your contribution did not go wasted. It was clearly well worth it.
We've spent our entire budget. Speaking of contributions and budgets and sponsors, tonight we have Munchies. It's a Frito-Lay product. Munchies Flamin' Hot, not flaming. There's no G. Flamin' Hot peanuts. And so these are good all the way to January 12th of 2021. So we've got a while to eat these, but I'm going to probably eat them as we talk.
Dive in, yeah. Might as well.
3 servings, 480 calories a package. So I don't know if it's good or bad.
I'm not sure. Was it when sugar was our sponsor that we started evaluating the nutritional value of our sponsors?
And all of our sponsors, not all, but a lot have been food.
Yeah.
The
appropriately so.
Yeah, the first ingredient is peanuts, so that's
good. Actually, that is very good information.
Okay, so Munchies Flamin' Hot Peanuts is our sponsor. First off the wall question, Dave.
Yeah.
Kick this to you first. Would you prefer to be in a fight with 10 duck-sized horses, 10 duck-sized horses, or 1 horse-sized duck? So you got 10 small horses. I mean, what's a duck? I don't know. Yeah, like that?
Yeah, it's a bit bigger than a chicken, smaller than a turkey.
10 of those coming at you. Or 1 horse-sized duck, which does sound very frightening.
Ducks are kind of mean anyway.
Okay.
I mean, geese are clearly meaner, but
okay.
Ducks, I mean, I'm just picturing this horse-sized duck coming at me with a bill that's going to be like that long and just snapping that on my head. And that's it. The fight is over at that point in time. Just... So I'm definitely going with the duck-sized horses.
So the 10 duck-sized
horses.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, they don't have any claws or anything like that. And with them being smaller like that, I don't think it'd be too hard to, kick them.
Yeah. I think I see where you're going with this. So, the bite of a horse-sized duck could really do some...
It could do a lot of
permanent damage, if not death and dismemberment.
Yes.
Whereas the 10... normal ducks is a duck.
Yeah.
It would sting or hurt or pinch.
Sure.
But probably not maim
No permanent, I
think I'm with you. I would go with the 10.
Yeah.
10 10
duck-sized horses. 10.
Wait a minute.
Yeah, 10 duck-sized
10 duck-sized horses. So it's tiny horses.
Yeah.
I had ducks. I had all ducks in my mind the whole time.
Okay. So, I mean, that's even better.
Yeah,
because when you take a horse and shrink it down to the size of a duck, it's going to be hard pressed to bite you at all.
Yeah, okay.
And again, no claws.
I didn't even understand the question that
that you put together.
So, I'm still with you. The smaller version of this.
Yeah.
It's all terrifying a little bit, really.
Kind of, yeah. You just, especially when random animals start just coming at you, whether it be a bone shattering quack or a bunch of little,
Yes. Yeah. I forgot to mention I wore the dirtiest hat that I own.
Yeah.
Dave, that's all sweat.
That is
disgusting.
Pretty gross. Yeah. Yeah.
It's from Hawaii, though.
Okay.
There's that. All right, should we move on?
Yes, we should
the
move
green
on.
one, I believe, is our next. Okay, so this is our actual question that actually matters.
Oh, we didn't celebrate our 10th.
Oh, ready?
Let's do it.
Oh, wow, that's louder than I thought. Ooh. Whew. You like that smell?
Well,
happy 10th.
10th off the wall.
Off the wall. Okay, so the question that actually matters.
The question that actually, the important part of the show. Someone submitted this.
Yeah, very similar to this. We maybe worded it a little different, but we're good at the point.
Yeah, we shortened the question a little bit. But what is the best Bible translation?
Okay, the best Bible translation. This is something that a lot of Christians wonder about, I think.
I would even say maybe a lot of Christians debate about.
Yeah, which is actually the first point I want to make about this before we kind of jump in answering this in some ways. This should not be an issue that divides people. Like it just shouldn't be like if you're reading the book of Satan, yes, and I'm reading the NIV or whatever, then yeah, that's probably going to divide us, right? But I'm talking about the mainstream, biblical translations.
Yeah.
You read one, I read. This should absolutely not be something that divides people, but it does.
It absolutely does. And actually, I will make that point that, we've been doing this now for 10 episodes, woohoo. Mm-hmm. And for the very observant viewers, you will notice that anytime I quote a verse, it's from NRSV. Whenever he quotes a verse, it's usually from ESV, sometimes from NIV. And we're still doing it, It's not like we allowed that to become a major stumbling block for any.
I'm secretly enraged at you about it, but I just don't say
Okay.
No.
Well,
sorry, I'm busy opening
there's
up
lots
our
of
sponsor.
things. There's lots of things I totally understand being secretly enraged at me about. So if that's one of them, totally fine.
Yeah, but no, I just don't. I don't think it should be one of those things that should divide people. Satan has definitely used it.
Oh yeah,
for something that divides people and has put a wedge in between Christians and driven them apart.
And so on that in that vein, I will point out I am absolutely not against King James Bible. Absolutely not. It's what I was raised on. The two pastors who led this church before you both relied upon the King James Version Bible. I am not opposed to King James Version Bible translation. I am opposed to people who are King James only and they won't hear anything else.
Yeah,
I'm opposed to that.
And there are churches where that is one of their big kind of platforms, right?
Yeah,
and they even advertise that and so I'm with you. I'm 100% not opposed to the King James Version. I still read from it at times, and I'll study from it at times, and so. Not anywhere near like opposed to it, but I'm with you on the letting that be something that divides us and even like the thing that some people use it to define them as a Christian.
Yes,
just doesn't make sense to me. And we're going to talk about how the Bible gets translated and has been translated, kind of the techniques used and the different schools of thought on that. But anyway, I wanted to start off with saying that should not be something that divides people at all.
Right.
So,
I'll
let you start. I need to set a timer. I'm going to go for what do you think I should put it at now? Like 20 minutes?
Well, yeah, let's go with 20 minutes because...
Okay.
Yeah. Nobody wants our 10th episode to be our longest episode.
No one wants that.
No. That's like a punishment, not a reward.
Yeah.
I mean...
Okay, so again, what is the best Bible translation? How would you start to answer that, I guess? Dave?
I think I would start to answer that by saying I don't have an answer for that.
All right, we're done. Everybody, thanks for coming.
Yeah.
Woo! Later.
I definitely have a preferred Bible, a couple different preferred Bible translations, and a couple that I would encourage people to avoid. But as far as best, it's going to come down to a couple different things as far as what you prefer. how easy certain translations are for you to read and understand. Even something like where you're at in your Christian walk. And I would also probably discourage people in general from getting too locked into one translation at all, especially with technology being what it is these days. I have pulled up the Lord's Prayer on my tablet right now in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different Bible translations.
Yeah.
So there's no need really to limit yourself to one. However, if you are looking to get a good Bible translation, the first place I would start is just discussing what does it mean that the Bible, what is the Bible translation? How is it done?
Yeah.
And so, first of all, let's understand that neither the Old Testament nor the New Testament were written in English. Okay?
Old Testament was Hebrew.
Old Testament was Hebrew, and New Testament was Greek, both of which are now dead languages. Okay? So when we're talking about creating a Bible translation, we're talking about scholars, smart people, looking back at Greek and the Hebrew texts. We don't have the originals.
I was going to say, that's probably something a lot of people don't necessarily even know, that
sure,
there's no one place where like the original Bible is housed.
Right.
And we've got Paul's letters or his, what's the word? Amanuensis? Is that the word?
Yes.
Remember where he it's his scribe, where there's no place where that is like housed. We don't have the original ones.
Right.
But we'll get to why that shouldn't be like a discouraging thing.
Right.
Or I'm going to here in a second. But
okay.
Anyway, there's not one place where like, oh, here's the original.
Right. So we're taking kind of bits and pieces from everywhere that we've been able to gather these ancient texts. And so I guess if you have information on that, I'll let you kind of...
So there are 5,000 partial or complete copies of the originals in Greek, 8,000 in Latin, and 1,000 in other languages. Okay, so there are a ton of different painstaking copies where there wasn't a printing press, but someone would painstakingly, at one point, have the original, write out exactly what they're seeing, right? And what's amazing about so all these thousands of different copies, there's literally not one major variation.
Right, and that is something that
craziness.
A lot of atheists and Richard Dawkins makes this point often, is that we can't trust the Bible, and he compares it to the game of telephone, right? Where I tell one person one thing, and then they tell someone, and so on and so forth. And by the time you get to the end, what was said probably doesn't even resemble the original. And that just shows a profound lack of understanding in how translation worked.
His word is thrown around kind of meanly, but it's ignorant.
Yes,
is what it is.
That word is thrown around meanly, but it just means he doesn't understand.
You just don't know how it works.
Right. And this was something that...
Or he's just lying, I don't know.
He might just be trying to deceive people into not being Christians or believing God, whatever. So with the Old Testament especially, the way it was passed down from person to person was that the scribes, the Hebrew scribes who copied it, some of the people who transcribed this Bible, so transcription is different from translation, they're taking the original and just copying it by hand. Okay? They're taking the original in Hebrew, copying it in Hebrew by hand, and these scribes had to do it perfectly. Okay? And if they spent their whole life doing it, then they might die at the ripe old age of 100 years old, having completed maybe one copy. Okay? It was like you said, it was a painstaking process because these are the words of God. Okay? So it was passed down. And anyway, so we have all these different copies that the scholars are looking at, and then they are trying to determine how to translate that into English the best they can. So as I said, these are dead languages, meaning they're not used in writing anymore except for religious purposes or educational purposes, and they're not spoken anymore except for, again, religious or educational purposes. So the problem with that is that when people go back and they read something, not everything translates perfectly, right? Not everything you can do a word-for-word translation, which is kind of one of the things that people look for when they're doing translations is was this translation done more word to word, or was it done more thought to thought?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because there's kind of three overall ways of translating the Bible, and Dave's hit on two of them. You go word for word.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the Greek word. This is what that word means.
Yeah.
In English, word for word. Thought for thought. Here's a Bible a sentence or a passage.
Mm-hmm.
Here's what the thought conveyed in that passage would be.
Right.
So we'll translate it that way. Or you've got some that are on the other end, and they're just like paraphrases.
Right.
This is kind of what we think this maybe kind of means.
Yeah.
And it's much looser, I would say, of a translation than some of these others. But anyway, go ahead. There's three different ways.
So those three different ways. And so that's why there are so many different Bible translations, is because some schools of thought tend to be very much, well, we need to know the exact words, so just give us the words. The problem with the explicit word-for-word translation is that either A, it can become unintelligible, like we can't understand it because we're focused too much on just
to read.
On just what the word is and translating that, or we can miss out on some of the meaning by not accurately articulating certain idioms. So, for example, every culture has a different sort of idiom, which is just kind of a common use metaphor that people will use. Like,
can I give you one?
You can absolutely give me one.
That I don't think is that common, but it's something my dad used to say.
Yes.
He may literally be the only one. But I was talking to my kids the other day, and have you noticed how there are so many Dollar Generals?
Yes.
They're everywhere. There's about to be a new one in Morrisville. My dad, if he saw this phenomenon happening, he would say, "You can't swing a dead cat without hitting a Dollar General."
I'm familiar with that.
You are, so it wasn't just my dad?
It wasn't just your dad.
Just
no.
like Job's turkey on Sunday, that wasn't just my dad.
That one might have just been your dad.
Bob Larry told me.
Oh, really? Okay.
Anyway, can you imagine trying to translate what that means?
Yeah, you can't swing a dead cat. Honestly, there would be cults forming out of that if it wasn't translated. Yeah, if it wasn't translated properly. Another one is, I'm going to be in the doghouse when I get home tonight. Right? You know, what that means is I'm going to be in trouble. And everyone who speaks the language would understand it to mean that. Everyone who understands the culture would understand it to mean that. However, if we just translate it word for word and we lose that culture, so in 1,000 years when we've been taken over by North Korea and are all speaking Korean, then, if this is transcribed, if this is transcribed, and people are going to be wondering, what does he mean? He's going to be in the doghouse. Boy, was this country, was he that poor that he lived in a doghouse? Yeah, swinging a dead cat around. Is that how he made food? They're not going to understand it. So it's important to take both those into consideration. Whether
some examples.
We have some examples. I guess we have an example of both extremes, or at least I have an example of both extremes: the extreme word to word and the extreme paraphrase version.
Some of the most extreme word for word, the one on this little graph thing, is one called the interlinear. Maybe a more familiar one is the New American Standard Bible. This is the interlinear.
This is the interlinear Bible.
Okay.
And so I'll give you an example. Go ahead.
Okay. So NASB is one. Amplified Bible is the next on the list. The ESV, which is actually the one that I read from a lot, is next. And there's RSV. Then there's King James Version. Mm-hmm. And so some of the ones we've already mentioned, ESV, King James Version, they're more leaning towards the word for word kind of translations. Yep. Yeah. And this is the one that tops the list.
So this tops the list on,
it's like way over here
word for word, yeah. And the reason is because it literally just takes the Hebrew text in the Old Testament and the Greek text in the New Testament and just lays it out. It shows you all the different characters and then puts the word-for-word translation underneath. And I dog-eared one of my favorite verses from Isaiah chapter 6, verse 6. Then one of the seraphs flew to me with a live coal in hand, snatched with tongues from the altar, touched it to my mouth, and he said, "See, this has touched your lips, and your iniquities are taken away." Most of you are familiar with this. Then in verse 8, the Lord says, "Whom shall I send? Who will go for us?" And Isaiah says, "Here am I, send me." Mm-hmm. Well, in the interlinear version, it says, "Then flew, my eyes have seen, hosts, Jehovah of, the King on my mouth, and it touched the altar from taken with tongs, burning a coal, in and hand his, is covered, your and sin, your iniquity, is and removed, your lips on, this has touched." I'm going to stop there.
Please.
You
so
get
this
the
is
picture.
The far extreme
so
word
that
for
is
word.
the far extreme word for word. I have this, and I love this for word studies. If you're trying to look specifically at a passage and trying to relate the different original Hebrew characters to where they're used elsewhere in the Bible, this is fantastic for that. For a personal devotional, this is worthless. Okay.
Well, yeah. So those word for word, interlinear, ESV, King James Version, they all kind of lean. Interlinear does more than lean.
Yes.
All the way. A thought for thought will be more like the NIV. Probably a lot of people read New International Version. It's more kind of in the middle of this kind of spectrum it's a thought for thought. This is the what numerous translators have. That's the thing with most of these Bible translations. It is tons and tons of different scholars who are experts in different areas. And they get together and they put this together, and then they're scholarly reviewed. I mean, it's such a process.
So, and that's another thing, probably contrary to what some of you might think, is it's not like it's just one person sitting down and going, okay, here's what this should mean. It's
unless.
We will get there. We will get there. It's usually, a bunch of scholars, like you said, sitting in a room and debating, well, I think we should translate it this way. Yeah, but then we lose the meaning of this, or then we lose the historical context of this. And usually sponsored by some sort of organization who either is striving to get an easier to read Bible or an easier to understand Bible, or one with more historical context, or one that reveals more theology. There's a lot of different reasons, which is why there's so many different English translations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, let's see. Well, let's just get there now.
Okay.
All the way to the paraphrase side. So we got interlinear over here. NIV, kind of roaming around the middle, thought for thought. The Message, way over here. Yes. So think of interlinear over here, Message over here. This is more of a paraphrase. What's his name? Eugene Peterson?
Peterson, I think it's Peterson, yeah.
Eugene something.
For whatever reason, Porter's popping into my mind, but I don't think that's right. Porter. Yeah. I don't know where I'm pulling that out of, but I think it is Eugene Peterson. But he was the one and only person who put together the Message. Right.
And so it's kind of his paraphrase of what... I don't even know what he used originally. I should have looked that up. I don't want to... So... I don't know if he knows Greek and Hebrew, maybe. I don't know.
At first, he just used a King James Bible. Okay. However, he does have a doctorate in being able to read and understand, I think, both Greek and Hebrew, at the very least Greek. Okay. However, I wanted to give you guys an example of what happens. So like I read out of the interlinear version, I wanted to give you guys an example too about what happens when you swing too far on the other side with the paraphrase. So the Lord's Prayer, I told you guys I had that pulled up on my tablet here. And so the NRSV, and most of you guys can probably quote the Lord's Prayer. Prayer in this way: Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we also forgive our debtors. And do not bring us to the time of trial, but rescue us from the evil one. Now, we swing that over to the Message, and it's almost unrecognizable. You can pray very simply, like this. Our Father in heaven, reveal who you are. Set the world right. Do what's best. As above, so below. Keep us alive with 3 square meals. Keep us forgiven with you and forgiving others. Keep us safe from ourselves and the devil. You're in charge. You can do anything you want. You're ablaze in beauty. Yes, yes, yes. I have no idea where that yes, yes, yes comes from. No idea whatsoever. I've looked into it. I can't figure it out.
Can't figure out the yes, yes, yes.
B, the as above, so below, that is dangerous wording because that's commonly used in satanic and Wicca rituals. Okay. Oh, and yet here it is appearing in Eugene's version of the New Testament Lord's Prayer. Also, like I said, it's very hard to recognize that compared to the original. Someone else pointed out when I was doing research about this, he never once refers to God as holy in this. He never throws that word around. He says, you're the best, but that really, from a theological standpoint, that really doesn't do the Lord's Prayer justice.
Yeah, it doesn't grasp.
It doesn't wholly grasp the concepts that are being conveyed there.
It doesn't wholly grasp holy.
Wholly grasp holy, yes. Yeah.
So
that deserves another holy grasp holy.
Thank you, Dave.
Yes. We got it.
So I'll be honest. I definitely don't study from the Message. It's not something that I go to for like Bible study or even like a daily reader type thing. I will look at it every once in a while to see, like, I guess it would just be this one guy's kind of, okay, how's
take
he
on it? Yeah.
How's he? Well, yeah, what's his take on this? But every time it's in comparison with a version of the Bible that I would trust more. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So this would be my first,
a more scholarly kind of version.
Yeah. This would be, I guess, maybe my second discouragement from you guys is please don't use the Message as your only source of scripture reading. It has been pointed out by numerous different theologians that there are errors and flat out falsehoods in it. However, most of them agree it can be used as a good Bible commentary.
Yeah.
Okay?
Which is
to supplement.
more what it is.
Yeah.
And, when I'm studying for a sermon, I'll read different commentaries, and
yeah,
that's what it is. It's one guy's kind of take on.
Yes, on
and
what
it may
does
be
this
a very informed take, a wise take even. So I'm not putting that down, but I'm saying I agree with you that probably that end of the spectrum of a paraphrase should be more on that kind of compared to a commentary. So I agree with you on that.
Yeah, and so we both looked up some charts. There's all sorts of, if you just Google like Bible translation chart, you'll get all sorts of fun stuff from Google. And I have a couple of these. And so one of the encouragements that I wanted to put out there is, and this is just my opinion, okay, so take it for whatever it's worth, is that I would probably discourage going any more towards the paraphrase spectrum than NIV. I think, NIV is kind of middle of the ground. If you get much farther past that, then it's just inevitable that you're going to lose some meaning of the original scripture. You're going to lose some of its original context. Granted, we're kind of losing some of it anyway, just simply because we don't speak the original language. We don't have all the historical information that people had when the text was new and original. But we can circumvent, I guess, some of that by just being smart in how we select our translations. So I guess from there, I mean, that's about it. I have a couple other thoughts about like cautions as far as when you're trying to select a translation, and then I'm more than happy to let you guys know what one I use most regularly. But
is that our timer, really?
It appears to be our time.
Dave, how did we go so fast?
I don't know.
I want to make one point.
Okay.
Before maybe we shut it down. So a lot of people have heard of Homer and his writings.
Yes.
Plato.
Yeah.
Aristotle. Caesar. Okay. So remember earlier when I said there's like thousands and thousands of these copies of the original manuscripts that we can look at.
Yes.
And can we trust that?
Right.
Well, if you look at Homer, there's about 2,000 copies.
And we trust.
And nobody questions,
Nobody
right? Like,
questions
is this the original version of his writing? Plato, and I guess how many of Plato's?
400s?
7.
700?
7.
It's just 7?
7.
Oh, that hurts.
Aristotle, 49.
Wow.
So
that hurts.
I just make that point that people want to attack. Sometimes they're just looking for a way to attack Christianity.
Yes.
Without really a basis to do so.
Uh-huh.
So I feel really, really confident that we're very, very close to like the original manuscripts, like the original letters that Paul wrote. Like I have really no doubts that especially like the things that matter, like could there be a comma in the wrong place or something like that? Yeah. I guess so. But the message that we have, the crux of the issue, the things that are central, like I feel really confident that we have the original, like meaning behind that, and the original text
words, and I would agree with that. That's a point that comes up pretty often, especially the Odyssey, the Homer. Is nobody questions that its authenticity, but everybody's real quick to question the authenticity of the Bible. But it's like, well, we have how many did you say of Homer?
Well, 2,000.
2,000. So we have somewhere between like 2 and 3 times. As many
at least
manuscripts.
More, I think.
So anyway, a couple other cautions that I did just want to give you guys is don't sacrifice accuracy for ease of read. Okay. We were talking about the Message. The Message is rated at a 4th grade reading level. Okay, so it's probably pretty easy to read, but we've already kind of showed you that it's not, that it doesn't always mean it's the best. NIV, which, like I said, is probably about the farthest I encourage people to go on the paraphrase spectrum. 8th grade reading level, great. To the people who love King James, again, I'm not against King James, but it is at a 13th grade reading level. And so I mentioned this to Kevin kind of before we were recording, is that kind of means you should not expect anyone who is under a freshman in college to be able to easily read and understand that. So if you're looking for a translation for your kids, maybe find another one. Even like New King James was like somewhere around 8,
New King James 9.
9th. Okay, so 9th grade reading level. So even the New King James, it's based on the same text, okay? It just basically removes the these and thous and all that kind of stuff. So much easier to read. So I prefer currently, because I've swung a bit on this, but currently I prefer the NRSV, the New Revised Standard Version, which kind of sits kind of between your King James and NIV on the word-for-word, thought-for-thought spectrum. One of the reasons why I like it, though, is because it was written primarily for academic purposes, not religious purposes. The translation was put together, actually, the coalition or group or whatever that put it together consisted of more faith believers, non-Christians, than just about any other translation. I like that because it means that they're looking at the text historically, they're looking at it academically, and I mean we're religious people in the room to keep them from completely changing it, obviously. And so it's going to give you more of that historical context. And again, I can supplement that easily with all these other translations that we have access to. So we didn't really answer the question.
I was going to say, so the original question is, what is the best Bible translation? I don't think that is necessarily an answerable question. Do you mean the best as in easy for you to understand? That may be one. Do you mean the best as in maybe you memorize the most verses in that version? Maybe that's the version you should continue to read.
Sure.
That could be the best. The best as in, is it the most accurate word for word, where you'll get a different answer, right? And so hopefully, though, this has been a little bit helpful, maybe, I hope.
Yeah.
So we got to hurry, Dave. We got to hurry. Nerdy question. How fast can you be? Dave.
Yes.
Why can you not drink out of a straw longer than 30 feet? The question implies that you cannot drink out of a straw longer than 30 feet.
That is correct. You
so
cannot.
Why is
so
that,
if you have a glass of water here, and then we cut a hole in the ceiling, and we stuck a 30-foot straw straight up, and you climbed up there on your 31-foot ladder, and tried to drink out of it, it would be impossible for you to draw any liquid up that straw. The reason being, because the weight of water. So, the more water enters the straw, the heavier everything in that straw is becoming.
Yes.
And at the point you get to the 30-foot mark, that water weighs as much as 1 atmosphere of pressure. Okay? So, meaning you cannot put enough of a vacuum on it to overcome the weight of the water trying to go back down the straw.
Like it's humanly impossible to put that much.
It's even mechanically impossible to create a vacuum that would draw the water up past that point, because you can't go. I mean, the lowest you can go is 0, right? 0 atmospheres of pressure, but the water still weighs 1 atmosphere of pressure.
Wow, Dave. Really outdone yourself tonight. Okay.
Had to have a special one.
Yes, good. That was good. Yeah. Okay, 3, maybe 4 dad jokes.
Okay. That's another one I might end up getting critiqued on by Donald, because he's actually the one who posed that particular dirty question.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
Actually, so the way he sent it to me was in a text message. It just said, why can you not suck farther than 30 feet? And I was like, please rephrase
some parameters
that.
on
Please rephrase that. Yeah.
Out of a straw and all that. Okay. Dad jokes. Dave.
Yes.
I don't trust stairs. They're always up to something.
Oh!
Dad, can you put the cat out? Dad says, I didn't know it was on fire. These may be the dumbest out of all 10 times. I used to hate facial hair, but then it grew on me.
Oh, man.
Oh, man. And finally, Dave, did you know that it takes guts to be an organ donor? I'm sorry, everyone. I'm sorry.
But it always leaves you hollow inside.
Nice. Adding to the... Hey, this is my...
Sorry. I don't mean to step on your toes. So. I'll stay over here in the nerdy corner.
Yes. 10th episode. What do I have? 2 more to celebrate.
2 more, yeah.
All right. Well, thanks, everybody. Hopefully this is informative. We, as always, choked to death. We, as always, encourage questions, comments about this. Be kind. So far, people have been nice. But,
yes.
But we do like questions, and glad to follow up or correct things if we agree with you, I guess, that we were wrong about something, which could happen.
Honestly, even if we disagree with you that we were wrong, we're more than happy to talk about your perspective.
Yeah, and kindly. We won't call you out.
No, we will not.
Unless you want us to.
Unless you want us to.
Then we will. But
yeah.
Anyway, glad to follow up with that. So 10 episodes down. Appreciate all of our many fans out there. All right.
Like the ceiling fans, box fans.
That's right. See y'all later. Take care.